want you to worry about finishing the exam. No one ever does. It's the way I designed it. So just finish writing whenever you... Time's up! You, Little Red Riding Hood. Stop writing. You can stop writing, sir. It's fruitless. Congratulations. You just got an F.
Do you even know my name?
No, I don't.
Dave and his friends were the biggest scammers on campus.
We've done this before. Let's do it again.
There was nothing they couldn't get away with.
Professor Marco, I got hit by a truck today. Are you okay?
You got hit by a truck.
Until they met the one guy
I know what you did. I was there. I saw it.
Cheaters.
I was sitting right next to you. Remember me?
they couldn't get away from.
I got the proof. Not afraid to expel you.
What do you want? Money, free dry cleaning, Euro pass?
No, I don't. A Euro pass? No, no. I want you to get me a girl. Hey, now, girl.
I'm not gonna eat that, you retard.
No one calls me a retard. You freaking hobo.
The story about slackers.
Bring me the girl, Dave. You and your friends are going down. I really hate to kick you guys out of school.
One more job.
I say we bury him.
Lovers.
His name's Ethan. He really likes you.
Oh, had you love? Shut up! Oh,
Beautiful.
And a guy with a special friend.
you be quiet, hair doll.
I mean, Ethan is nuts. I can do with Angela.
As your attorney, I can't advise that.
Angela, the guy that I like is your friend Dave.
Dave!
Yeah.
Fudge!
Slackers.
Is this a hair doll?
I didn't make that. It fell out of your hair that way.
It fell out of my hair this way?
Give me it back.
Give me it back.
I want it back. You're going down.
And no, this is not the Richard Linklater 1990 movie Slacker. No. This is a completely different Slackers. And story here is that you have a nerdy college student played by Jason Schwartzman who blackmails a group of young men with his knowledge that they have cheated throughout college and use it to get closer to a young woman he is obsessed with, played by Jamie King. Among the cast in here, you also have Devon Sawa, Jason Segel, Laura Prepon from That 70s Show, Mamie Van Doren's second to last movie she was in before she passed away at the age of 71, where she apparently also appears naked as well, which is, yeah, that's going to get people into the movie theater for this, but, in addition to them, you also have, how do I go from that, but you also have, Joe Flaherty is also in the movie as well, Retta from Parks and Rec, Jim Rash from Community, Cameron Diaz and Gina Gershon have a cameo in here as well. So there are some notable names in here. The writer of this is actually a guy who wrote American Pie 2 just the previous summer, David Steinberg. And, yeah, so, yeah, this is one of those movies where, I mean, it's a movie that's clearly trying to cash in on the American Pie ideas, trying to be a new Animal House. I mean, it's literally kind of the similar concept to Animal House, pretty much, with these guys who scam their way through college and basically cheat their way through the system. And this time you have somebody who gets in their way, and you think that would lead to something funny. And I remember watching this movie thinking that there might have been something funny about it, some stuff I remember from it. But even then, now that I've watched it again as of late, there really is not a whole lot I remember about this movie that's actually good or something that's memorable about it. But, I mean, yeah, it's just not a good movie. It explains a lot why this was dumped in the middle of February, is the beginning of February, and, I mean, the only real thing I really remember about this movie was that I thought Jamie King had more to do in this movie than she did in something like Pearl Harbor, where she was just kind of there to just be a stock character that you were supposed to care about, but you really do not. But yeah, I thought I remembered some stuff from this movie that I thought was actually funny, and watching it again, I really did not get a whole lot of laughs from it. I mean, the moments that they have in here are kind of moments that are not really that clever, not really that obnoxious. They're very obnoxious, but they're just not... Nothing about it really stands out as funny. The only thing I really remember from it was the fact that I kind of like Jamie King in this. I actually thought she was actually a decent character that actually had more to do than something like in Pearl Harbor, where she was really just kind of a stock character, like I said before. But even Jason, like, none of these characters are really likable per se. You don't really give it too much about these guys who are scamming their way through college. Jason Schwartzman is just a creep in general, honestly. And I don't know. I mean, to me, this is one of those movies where I thought going back to it, I might remember more about it, and it might be one of those things like How High, or some of these movies I've talked about recently where they should not have been good movies, and they actually turn out to be somewhat surprisingly funny movies. Going back and looking at this one again, I can honestly say that, yeah, this one did not hold up well over time, and sadly, it's one of those ones that I thought that I liked back in the day, but watching it now, it's just like, yeah, this does not hold up well whatsoever, and it's a shame because there's good talent involved in here, but there's just not really a whole lot there. The jokes really aren't that funny. The writing isn't really all that clever. There's not really a whole lot of sex in this comedy that should have that type of sexual humor to it, and it just feels kind of wasted. It feels like wasted material overall. Everything about this has potential for something, but there's just nothing there to it when it's all said and done. And it's just like, yeah, it's one that I really did not like. It's one that I thought I liked more than I thought that I let on, but it just didn't work for me. And yeah, I can see why it was dumped on this weekend. So that's Slackers for you. So let's go ahead and move on to the last film we have here, and that is Nicole Kidman and Ben Chaplin in Birthday Girl.
Nicole Kidman, Ben Chaplin.
I don't know you.
And I don't know you either.
Birthday Girl.
Speaking of movies that have no idea what they're trying to sell themselves as, we have this movie here where you have Ben Chaplin as a English bank clerk who orders a Russian mail order bride played by Nicole Kidman. Okay, I had some questions about that, but it becomes clear upon her arrival that Nadia cannot speak English, and early in her stay, two mysterious men come to the house claiming to be her cousin and cousin's friend. This sells itself as an erotic comedy thriller, but that trailer, I couldn't show you the whole thing, but yeah, needless to say, that trailer definitely does not know how to sell this movie. Like, this is a movie that really has no idea what they're trying to sell you on, except for the fact that it's Nicole Kidman as a mail-order bride. A Russian mail-order bride, nonetheless. And she's probably the best thing about the movie, though. That I can honestly say that, because, like, yeah, the movie itself really is not that great, but, I mean, it gives Nicole Kidman a chance to do some ranging in terms of her acting. I mean, this is before she won her Oscar for The Hours, which I think happened the following year. Yeah, because The Hours was 2002, if I'm not mistaken. We'll get to that later on down in the year. But, I mean, it does show that Nicole Kidman does have a lot of range as an actress, so I guess that's the one thing I got to give the movie credit for. But other than that, though, this is not a very good movie. Despite the fact that this is directed by Jez Butterworth, who has been more known for his more recent work. I mean, he's the guy that co-wrote Enter Tomorrow. He wrote the James Brown biopic Get On, Black Mass, Spectre, Ford v Ferrari, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I mean, he's done a lot of work that you're very familiar with. So I don't know if I can really blame it on him overall. I mean, maybe it is on him because he's the writer and director, but I just don't think there was a story that really worked in this case. I mean, like I said, the tone in this movie is all over the place. It really does not know what kind of a story it wants to tell, what it wants to be like. Does it want to be like one of those movies like... The more I think about it, I think it's trying to be kind of something like The Taurus that came out at the start of the next decade with Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie. Another one of those movies that kind of has no idea what it wants to be, but it has these two sexy-looking actors, like Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp, and they try to sell that just on that movie alone. But that movie didn't work for a number of different reasons, kind of like what this movie did, mostly because the tone is all over the place. But at least in this movie, there are things about this movie that I can give it credit for. Like I said, Nicole Kidman I think is really good here. Ben Chaplin, like I said, he's not bad in the movie, but their chemistry is not really all that great in here. Vincent Cassel is also in here, and so is Matthew Kassovitz. But, yeah, it's another one of those movies that just, it's trying to sell you on something that it doesn't even know what it really is trying to sell you on. And probably with a better script, maybe this could have been handled better, but I guess if you're going to see this, see it for Nicole Kidman's performance. But other than that, there's nothing really about this movie that I can say that you should definitely check out. Yeah, definitely not a very good movie the more I think about it. But I thought Nicole Kidman was fine in it, but that's pretty much all I can say about it that's positive, so. Anyway, that's Birthday Girl for you.
They took everything Gordon Brewer had.
The guerrillas call it collateral damage.
Except his rage.
The assassin is back in Colombia, but you cannot take the law into your own hands.
Thanks for your advice.
If it's a war they want,
Don't even look at those guys unless you can kill them.
they picked the wrong guy. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Collateral damage. Rated R. Starts February 8th at a theater near you.
In the movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a Los Angeles firefighter who seeks to avenge his son's and wife's deaths at the hand of a guerrilla commander who travels to Colombia and faces his family's killers. You also have Elias Koteas in here, Cliff Curtis, John Leguizamo, and John Turturro. This is directed by Andrew Davis, who did The Fugitive, and was a pretty good action director when you really look at his filmography in general. He does not make a lot of terrible movies, but there's a reason why this is considered possibly Arnold Schwarzenegger's worst movie as an action star. And that's saying a lot because he's made some bad movies, but even the bad movies he's been in, stuff like Batman and Robin, or even something like Jingle All the Way, those are the movies that are the fun kind of bad. Like, he knows what his roles are in those movies and has fun with it. This is probably the single worst thing he's ever done. And I don't know. I don't know why this movie is I think I know why it is, but it's just a boring movie. It's a very generic movie. I mean, this is the literal definition of a generic-ass movie, action movie, because it's a plot that really does not have a whole lot there. Like, I guess he's trying to do something similar to something like Commando, but even Commando was a so bad it's good movie. It's a movie that knows exactly what it is. It knows how ridiculous it is, and it knows how to have fun with its premise and its entire material. This is just plain garbage. I mean, this is a boring movie, and I don't know why. It just didn't work as well as I think it should. I mean, it's a movie what I feel like should have so much more to it, and it just doesn't have it, man. But then again, probably the September 11th attacks had an effect on it. Maybe there was something big planned for this movie, because this was originally supposed to come out not but 3 weeks before September 11th. I mean, this movie had a trailer that was basically showing a major bomb attack in the United States. It was supposed to come out on October 5th of 2001, but it was postponed because of the September 11th attacks, and Warner Brothers basically removed the movie from the websites, radio stations, TV, movie theaters, because they had promos already out there. All the trailers and posters were basically recalled, and so they basically redid the film all over again, and they had to redo the ending all over again. And apparently Sofia Vergara actually had a role in this movie as an airplane hijacker. However, that was cut from the movie as well, which not gonna lie, I probably would have liked to have seen that. Maybe it's on the DVD. I don't know. I wanted to see what Sofia Vergara was like as an airplane hijacker. I feel like that. It could either be really interesting because it would be so out of character for her, or it could be really, really bad. But yeah, part of me thinks that maybe because of September 11th and the fact that they had to change the ending around, basically I think that may have hurt the film in the long run. But even then, nothing about the rest of the movie really made it that interesting. It's a boring movie. It's a film that, a movie like this needs to have the Arnold Schwarzenegger that we know and love about him. Like the fact that he can be the action star and know that he knows he doesn't need to take himself too seriously, and knows that he has the quippy one-liners and has the fun action sequences to work around him. He can make it work. Like Eraser is a movie that's not that great, but that movie still has a lot of things about it that are really, really fun. The climax when he takes out the bad guys with a train and he calls James Caan on the phone. It's just like, you've just been erased, and like that stuff like that works. Like I said, Batman and Robin, Jingle All the Way. Those are movies that know how to use Schwarzenegger, even though the movies are not that good to begin with. This is a movie that just feels really, really dull and really, really boring. And for Andrew Davis, who is a really solid action director and has made some pretty good movies, this is not one of his better movies. This is a really, really boring movie on a number of different levels, and it just didn't work. I mean, it's not a good movie. It's a really, really bad movie. It's a boring film. It's not that interesting. It's not that engaging. You expect so much more with Arnold Schwarzenegger involved, and it's just not there, man. And it's a shame, because a good, fun, bad Arnold Schwarzenegger movie can really be a good, fun time. But this is certainly not that movie in particular, and you can feel the effects of it in this big time. So that's Collateral Damage. So let's go ahead and look at probably the overall best film we have this weekend. It's one you really would not expect to be that way. Frankie Muniz, Amanda Bynes, and Paul Giamatti in Big Fat Liar.
Open the gate, you moron!
On February 8th,
You're all fired!
Frankie Muniz and Amanda Bynes are taking down
It's payback time.
the meanest man around.
Color die?
Do you really think it's gonna work?
We're moving into phase 3.
Back off, man!
Big Fat Liar.
They told me to pick up a little blue car. They didn't say anything about a little blue man.
Rated PG at theaters Friday, February 8th.
Like I said, a movie that you probably would not expect to work in any way, shape, or form because it looks like a goofy kids comedy, but at the same time, that's kind of the charm of it. I think the filmmakers that made this movie pretty much knew that was what they were going into here. You basically have a storyline here where you have a plot that's very similar to The Boy Who Cried Wolf, where Frankie Muniz is a 14-year-old compulsive liar whose creative writing assignment is called Big Fat Liar, and it's stolen by an arrogant Hollywood producer, played by Paul Giamatti, who later plans to use it to make the fictional film of the same name. And so the chase is on to get revenge on him with the help of his friend, played by Amanda Bynes, which... God, I miss seeing Amanda Bynes and stuff again. I mean, unfortunately, her career kind of took a downward spiral after a little bit. There were times when her career was trying to get back on track, but unfortunately, she's just been in the situation where like things haven't worked out in their favor. But movies like this make me miss Amanda Bynes. She was usually very good in most of the stuff she was in, but unfortunately, I mean, last I heard she had some substance abuse problems, mental problems as well, but I'm looking on here, and it looks like she has kind of slowly but surely started to come back. According to Wikipedia, I see here that she has become a manicurist, so, I mean, maybe this is a sign that she's heading back in the right direction again, but, I mean, I don't know, I don't know, but all I know is that whenever she was on screen as an actress, she was usually very good. There's a reason why they gave her own sketch comedy show, because she does have a lot of comedic potential, and she would definitely show it throughout much of this decade in the 2000s. But as far as the movie goes, this is a really fun movie. It's a movie that knows how... It's the complete opposite of what Collateral Damage is. It knows exactly what kind of a movie it is. It basically wants to appeal to kids, but knows that the adults need to have some fun with it as well. And I think Ryan Robbins and Dan Snyder, who wrote the script for this, did a pretty good job of handling that. And Sean Levy, who I really liked as a director, he knows how to make fun movies in general. Like, I like a lot of his movies that he directed. I mean, I like this movie. I really like Just Married, which I thought was a silly, fun movie. I thought Cheaper by the Dozen was really good. I'm one of the few people that really likes the first Steve Martin Pink Panther movies. The Night at the Museum films can be fun at times. Date Night's pretty good. Real Steel. The worst thing I think he's ever directed overall was The Internship. That was just a bad movie in general. But overall, I really like him as a director, and like he knows what he needs to do to entertain people. And this is one of those movies where I think it does a very good job of handling that. And everybody in here is a lot of fun to watch. Frankie Muniz and Amanda Bynes have some really good fun chemistry together. Paul Giamatti's a great fun villain. You have Donald Faison, Sandra Oh, Lee Majors has a role in here as well. A really solid cast here in general, and it's just a silly, fun movie that knows exactly what it's trying to do. They gave Jaleel White a big role in this movie, which is actually really fun to see here. And, I don't know, man. I thought it was a ton of fun. It's one of those movies where you look at it and you think, okay, this is one of those ones that could easily be a film that gets kind of, pushed. It's a big hit when it comes out, and then when you watch it 20 years later, it's not going to hold up as well. This one surprisingly held up much better than I thought it did. And, yeah, I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed this movie. It's a really fun film. I enjoyed it a lot. Big Fat Liar. Definitely a good, fun movie. Not a classic by any means, but still a really fun movie that I do recommend checking out. If you're looking for a good, fun time on a Saturday afternoon, you can find a lot to really admire about this movie. There is a lot of good charm to this film. So with that said, let us move on to our last film, and that is Rollerball.
You think you can play?
What's it gonna be? After them. They're going to kill you!
Try to survive.
Grab hold!
From the filmmakers that brought you The Fast and the Furious and Die Hard.
They're gonna kill somebody.
Gotta catch me first.
Rollerball. Pow! Rated PG-13. Get in the game February 8th.
The movie that literally sent the director to jail, and that's not a joke. John McTiernan was actually sent to federal prison for making a false statement to the FBI investigator about 4 years after the movie came out about his hiring of a private investigator to illegally wiretap the producer of the film, Charles Robin, who coincidentally just won the Oscar this week for the Best Picture for Oppenheimer. But he was the producer on this film as well when this movie was produced in August of 2000. McTiernan had been in a disagreement with Robin about what type of film Rollerball should be, and had hired Pelicano to investigate Robin's intentions and actions. And dude spent a whole year in prison, and basically he had one more movie after this, but after that his career was pretty much over and done with. And even if that had not happened, then this movie probably would have killed John McTiernan's career anyway. But it's a remake of the 1975 film of the same name, and this time it features a much greater focus on action with more muted social and political overtones than the original. It takes place in the present rather than a future dystopian society. Oh, and it's PG-13, and I believe the original Rollerball was rated R, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's dead on arrival right from the get-go, and that should have been the first warning sign right there, that they were doing a PG-13 remake of an R-rated classic, a cult classic, if you will. But no, it gets even worse. Your leading stars are the dude from American Pie, not Jason Biggs, not Sean William Scott, not Eddie K. Thomas, Chris Klein. And then there's also LL Cool J and Rebecca Romaine Stamos. And if you're trying to sell a movie just on those three alone in 2002, yeah, it's not going to work out for you. This is a movie that is notoriously known for being as bad as it is. It's a movie that you can kind of tell that they don't have any idea what the tone is. You have the tone of the producer of The Fast and the Furious and the director of Die Hard. Two clearly different visions of what this movie was supposed to be. And this thing went through massive reshoots, massive re-edits. This thing was supposed to come out in 2001 and was delayed until 2002 because they had to shoot down all the stuff. They had to cut down all the violence and nudity because of the PG-13 rating, which, again, that should have been the first warning sign. 9 times out of 10, when you try to make a remake of an R-rated movie PG-13, it's going to fail. There's only been a few exceptions. Specifically, the one I think of the most is The Longest Yard, the 2005 one, but we'll eventually get to that one in a couple of years. But this is a really bad movie. If there's one thing about this movie that I will say that is very fun to watch, it's John Reno playing Alexei Petrovich. In this movie, he is so keen on getting a cable deal, and he says it like, "Just get that North American cable deal." He's the only one in this movie that I thought was having the most fun with it, and it's a performance that's just so over the top, it's so corny, but he's the one that's actually giving this film some life to it, because everything else about this movie is just garbage. I mean, it's a movie that's just such a mess, but it has that one little bright spot with John Reno going as over the top as he can to make this somewhat enjoyable, and he tries his best, and by God he tries his best, but it's just, in the end, it doesn't even matter because the movie itself is just a complete waste of time. Like I said, PG-13 remake of an R-rated movie. Should have been the Death Note right from the get-go. But, yeah. So not much more to say about that one. That is Rollerball.
John Q always played by the rules.
Mike's heart is useless. He's going to need a transplant or he's going to die.
Your insurance does not cover this.
Until the day he was forced,
Please, I'm sorry.
to change the rules.
Do something!
Denzel Washington.
Hospital's under new management now. Free health care for everybody.
This is going to end up bad for you, John.
John Q. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, February 15th.
Washington plays the title character, who's a man who's forced to take a hospital emergency room hostage in order to help his son receive a heart transplant. You see in the trailer there, Robert Duvall, James Woods, Anne Hesh, Kimberly Elise, and Ray Liotta are among the cast in this particular film. And, like I've talked about this before about Denzel Washington. I think he's the greatest actor we have right now. He can usually elevate movies like this that are not that great in particular and put it to another level. And while he's the best thing about this movie, as much as he's trying, it still can't save this movie from really being being a film that makes the health system look really, really bad. And I mean, you can question the health system if you want to of our country. I mean, there is a lot to question about it. Don't get me wrong, but this movie really feels like a film that was like it's trying to give you it's trying to pound a message right into you. Like it's not trying to give you like, it's doing it in a way where it feels very manipulative. It feels very much like a film that doesn't really know what it's trying to accomplish by doing something like this. And it probably would help if they didn't get a man who has not written anything in particular since the late 80s, early 90s, because if you look up this guy's bibliography on Wikipedia, he's mostly known for writing episodes of shows like Mr. Belvedere, Jake and the Fat Man, Highway to Heaven, and Dynasty. That's 10 years ago since Jake and the Fat Man ended, and that was the later show that ended there. So you would think after all that this guy would be better at it, but this film probably is not a good way to show that. But then again, this probably could have been a script that was tossed around for a number of different years, and just finally got to Denzel Washington. He saw that opportunity and said, "I'll take it. I mean, my name's going to be on this movie, so why not?" I mean, and like I said, he's the best thing about the movie in particular, but you know, we've seen movies that have done this concept much better. Of course, one of the big ones is Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon. George Clooney made a really great, underrated one with Jodie Foster directing it, Money Monster, which also had Julia Roberts in it, too. That was a great movie that came out about 10 years ago. Criminally underrated film. If you haven't seen that one, definitely check that one out. As much as Denzel Washington is trying his best to save this material, he really is the best thing about the movie, but the film feels way too manipulative with the message that it's trying to get across, trying to criticize and satirize the health system as a whole, but it just doesn't really fly all that well. And as much as, you know, John Cassavetes can be a really good director, and as much as Denzel Washington is doing his best to try to save it, it's not enough to save the movie in the end. And you know, luckily this film didn't kill his Oscar chances either, because usually a film like this would kill somebody's chances of winning an Oscar. I mean, just ask Eddie Murphy and Hugh Jackman how that went when they made bad movies before the Academy Awards. But I mean, the movie just isn't that good. It's a movie that I think had a point that I wanted to get across, but it needed a better scriptwriter to really get the point down without feeling too manipulative and punching it right in your gut and your face, pretty much. But yeah, not much more to say about that one. Not one of Denzel's better movies, despite him doing the best he can with it. It's just not worth it in the end. So that is John Q. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Britney Spears making her feature film debut as an actress, Crossroads.
You can't go all the way to Los Angeles by yourself. Well, then come with me.
Today,
Let's go, girls.
it's all about fun. All about adventure.
I'm not sleeping here.
All about friendship.
What we have is now, and right now we have each other.
Britney Spears. Crossroads.
Every girl should know how to throw a decent punch, right?
Rated PG-13. Today in theaters everywhere.
So set in Georgia, Britney Spears is one of 3 teenage girls who go on a cross-country road trip as they find themselves and their friendship in the process. The other 2 girls are names you're very familiar with. Zoe Saldana from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, Avatar, Star Trek, you name it. Taryn Manning from Orange is the New Black. You also have Kim Cattrall, Dan Aykroyd, Anson Mount in this as well. And the writer of this is actually Shonda Rhimes, who, of course, wanted to create Grey's Anatomy. This was actually also based off of a story by Britney Spears. And the director of this is Tamara Davis, who did Half-Baked. And Half-Baked, she also did Billy Madison, CB4. So not a bad director per se. And to Britney Spears' credit, she probably made a better movie than Glitter, which was not a good movie. Even though Mariah Carey was not the worst thing about that movie, it was just a lot of different things going against the film in particular. This is bad on a number of different levels, and none of them includes Britney Spears, because she is doing a decent acting job in here. And she, you know, if she had gotten better scripts to work with, I think she could have made it as a pretty solid actress overall. But the movie itself is just really bland and kind of like with John Q, very manipulative and very mediocre. But even in this, but I think this one is a little bit more offensive because of things that they do here that make little to no sense whatsoever. Like there's a subplot about teenage pregnancy, and the way it's presented, it's just like, ugh, like that feels really uncomfortable on how you're doing this. But then again, it's Shonda Rhimes who basically has made that part of her living, because she's behind some of the most popular shows of the last 10 years. But I mean, I guess of all the movies I've looked at with actresses who are singers, you know, Mandy Moore and Walk Forever, we looked at a couple weeks ago, Mariah Carey and Glitter, I guess Britney Spears' performance in this is the best of the 3, and it's the most tolerable of the three movies, but some of the decisions they make in this movie really make you think, like, what the hell are you thinking? I mean, like, if you had a better script, maybe you could make this work, but I don't know. To me, personally, this is one of those movies where, you know, as much as I like Britney Spears in this, I can't really say it's a good movie in general. But if you're looking for, like, the best of the three films I just mentioned, Walk to Remember, Glitter, and this is probably the best one, but even then, it's not that memorable of a movie. And, you know, when the movie was actually re-released in the theaters not too long ago, and I'm thinking, why? Like, why put that out in theaters again? Like, this movie wasn't really that popular enough to warrant a re-release on the big screen. And supposedly they did it because Britney Spears' memoir had just come out recently. But other than that, though, I couldn't see any other reason why they would release that movie in theaters again. But, I mean, it's, I guess, like I said, it's not a bad, it's not the worst movie you could see with a pop singer in the leading role in it, but it's not great either. It's a movie that just feels like this one's at least trying, but maybe they tried a little bit too hard compared to some of the other movies I've talked about. But, yeah, not much more to say about this one. Crossroads, I don't know. It's not one I can't really say it's bad. I can't really say it's good either. But I digress. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is a Peter Pan sequel coming nearly almost 50 years after the original Peter Pan. That is Disney's Return to Neverland.
Always believed in a boy who's never grown up, and an all-new adventure coming only to theaters. The one and only Peter Pan is back.
I proclaim you a lost boy. A lost girl.
With all new characters and new music.
The only way out of here is to fly. I'm going to try.
Walt Disney Pictures presents Peter Pan in Return to Neverland, rated G.
Be brave, lad. Don't let them see you cry.
Coming only to theaters February 15th.
As I had mentioned, Return to Neverland is the sequel to the 1953 Disney adaptation of Peter Pan. And the story here is that you follow a girl who refuses to believe in her mother's story during the Blitz in London, the mother being the older version of Wendy, and she's only to be mistakenly brought to Neverland by the pirates, including Captain Hook. And in order for her to get home, she needs Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, and the Lost Boys to encourage her to fly and make her believe. And the most interesting thing about this movie in particular is that it got a theatrical release. And rather than going direct to video like most Disney sequels, apparently what was happening was that Disney Movie Tunes, the company that was putting these out, developed then and signed the work for Peter and Jane to Disney Animation Canada, and the film was actually supposed to be a Peter Pan sequel destined for a theatrical release. However, not too long after that, the Canadian union stopped working on the movie, and then basically it was supposed to be then a video release, but then eventually became a theatrical release once again. I mean, it went through these different... Basically, instead of being the film that was supposed to be a theatrical release that went straight to video, it's the complete opposite, where you move it back from a straight-to-video release to a theatrical release midway through the production, much like some of the other Disney sequels, like most notably The Jungle Book 2, which comes out years later, and also Planes, which went through the same thing. It was supposed to be a direct-to-video release, but then eventually got the push back into theaters, and I never really thought this needed to be a theatrical release, but then again, I'm not involved in Disney's business or marketing strategies. I'm just here to talk about the movie itself. And the movie itself, most people are very mixed about it, but it has more going for it than I think a lot of people would give it credit for. I do like the interesting hook to the idea, no pun intended, that the main character, she has to deal with the fact that she's living in a country being torn apart by World War II, and you understand why she acts the way she does. She can't really believe in magic or fairy tales when you're in the middle of a war-torn country where thousands of people are getting killed or severely injured almost every single day. And there's even a point where Hook tries to manipulate Wendy's daughter Jane using the war as his motivation, showing that Hook could actually be clever in trying to seduce others to his side. And the animation does look very, very good. There's a really cool opening sequence where Hook is kidnapping Jane and the ship is flying through London while the war is going on. It still looks pretty impressive even to this very day. They actually have some good replacements for the voice actors, too. Blaine Weaver does a pretty good job as Peter Pan, and Corey Burton does a very good job as Captain Hook. You know, they do a good job of recapturing the spirit of the original voices in those particular performances. And it's pretty solid recreations of those characters in particular. And those are some of the positives. I will say another positive, too. I didn't know that this was actually directed by Donovan Cook, who That name may not sound familiar to a lot of people, but if you grew up with a show called Two Stupid Dogs back in the 1990s, you know that he's one of the creators of that show, and he directed a couple of movies for Disney around this time. This one that went to theaters, and then the Three Musketeers movie that came out with Mickey Mouse and the gang about a couple years later, which, I mean, now that I know that it's his work, and I've seen Two Stupid Dogs and a lot of his work from Disney, I can definitely tell that it's his work in particular, but, as far as the negatives go, it's a pretty generic storyline. Essentially, the plot of the film is Hook, but with a few changes swapped around in terms of where it takes place in the World War II elements. The songs are also kind of generic and out of place, too, for the time period. I mean, B.B. Mac and They Might Be Giants singing the pop songs of the early 2000s, and the film is supposed to take place in the 1940s. I mean, yeah, there's a reason why you should stick to the time periods in particular. I mean, Pan tried to do that with that terrible Hugh Jackman movie with Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana, and look how well that turned out. But, I guess one of the positives I could bring up with this movie is that I do like the thing that happens at the end when, you know, the young Peter Pan meets the older Wendy, and she actually remembers him, and Peter Pan's looking at her, and, like, it's a nice little scene, and it actually helps. It helps a little bit to give this movie a little bit more light to it than I think a lot of people would have looked at it. But other than moments like that, it's not a memorable movie in particular like the original Peter Pan. But it does have those moments I talked about where it is worth it when it's all said and done. I think the animation is okay. I think the voice acting is pretty good. Some of the twists and turns they do here are pretty cool. Some of the ideas they actually do are pretty interesting. So I can't really say it's a loss in particular or a pointless film in general, because there are some cool ideas that they actually do work with here. But I just wish that the film had done more to maybe kind of make it seem more theatrical than what it actually is, and to actually do something a little bit different in terms of the storyline and pretty much the music in general. But other than that, though, I think it's a fun little film. I think if you watch it once, you'd probably get some enjoyment out of it. I don't think you'd watch it as many times as you would say you would with the original Peter Pan, which still holds up on a number of different levels, and obviously is the better movie. But this, I don't know. I think it's a lot better than people would give it credit for. Definitely check it out. I think it's definitely worth it, but just don't expect it to be something on the same level as the original Peter Pan. So with that said, that's Return to Neverland. Now let's go ahead and get back to some crappy movies. Bruce Willis' new movie, Heart's War.
Prisoner of war camp.
There's an escape going to take place.
35 men going to the wire.
How do you choose who goes out and who's sent back to catch the Halford?
They were soldiers. With one last mission.
Send them up! They knew nothing!
One man will not sacrifice one last stand.
As long as my son knows everything's okay.
And one last battle. Bruce Willis. Heart's War. Rated R. Starts February 15th at theaters.
Bruce Willis plays a fourth-generation Army colonel who's imprisoned in a brutal German POW camp. Still, as the senior-ranking American officer, he commands his fellow inmates, keeping a sense of honor alive in a place where honor is easy to destroy, all under the dangerous eye of the Luftwaffe veteran Colonel Wilhelm Visser. Never giving up the fight to win the war, McNamara is silently planning, waiting for his moment to strike back at the enemy, and a murder at the camp gives him a chance to set a risky plan in motion. With a court-martial to keep Visser and the Germans distracted, McNamara organizes a cunning scheme to escape and destroy a nearby munitions plant, enlisting the unwitting help of a young lieutenant played by Colin Farrell. Together with his men, McNamara uses a hero's resolve to carry out his mission, ultimately forcing the weight of the value of his life against the good of the country. And, I don't know. This is one of those movies where there was some promise to it overall. It's got a good director who did Primal Fear. He also did Frequency. But then again, he also did Fallen, which was one of Denzel Washington's worst movies in particular. Billy Ray is a writer here that's very familiar with his work. If you've seen stuff like Shattered Glass, Breach, Overlord. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff here. The Hunger Games, Captain Phillips. So he has some decent films overall. I was bored by this movie, man. Like, I love Bruce Willis, and I like seeing him in movies where he's playing a different role than what we're used to seeing, but man, it's just not worth it, man. There's too many subplots going on, too many characters that really feel unnecessary in general, and for a movie that's just a little over 2 hours long, it feels like you're sitting there for a long, long period of time, and you don't really get invested in these characters whatsoever. As much as you admire the talents of the people involved, I mean, Colin Farrell, Terrence Howard, Linus Roach, Maury Sterling, Adrian Grenier is in this as well, Rory Corcoran, Sam Worthington, Jonathan Brandis is in this movie as well. Like, there's a lot of promise here with the people involved in here, but the story is just so bland and mediocre, and there's nothing really about it that makes you get excited when it's all said and done. Especially since Black Hawk Down had just come out beforehand, which I thought was a far superior war film around this time period. This movie just came around and just feels like a drag throughout most of it. And as much as it's trying its best, you just can't get really invested into it. It's a boring movie with a story that's not really all that engaging, all that interesting, and it just feels forced. It feels like a movie that's just really forcing it down your throat, and it runs on way too long. It drags. There's never really a point where you get invested or excited in what's going on. It's just like you're waiting for it to just end already. Kind of like the reviews I do here, but I digress. Hearts War, yeah, it's, as much as it's trying, it's just not worth it in the end. It's a boring movie, a dull drag of a film. It's just not worth it in the end, so that's Hearts War. So let's end the show on a positive note here. Let's talk about Broken Lizard's comedy classic, Super Troopers.
Give me a double bacon cheeseburger.
Double bacon cheeseburger? It's for a cop.
What the hell's that all about? You gonna spit in it now? That look like spit to you? Yeah.
Super Troopers. Rated R. Next Friday, February 15th.
First, let me say that scene in particular plays out much funnier in the movie. You think it's going to be just that one little scene right there, but no, it adds on as if you're watching it in the movie, and it's much better in the movie itself. I mean, that's one of those scenes where you think you've seen the best clip moments from that particular scene, but no, you got to see the movie to see how that plays out. But the story of this movie, I don't really think I need to say this about that, because you have 5 straight troopers from Vermont out to have a good time. Stationed in a remote area near the Canadian border, the troopers, avid pranksters with an affinity for syrup, have a knack for screwing up on the job. But when budget cuts in the town of Spurbury threaten the livelihood and pit them against the arch-rival Spurbury PD, the 5 friends try to straighten up and fly right. That is until a dead body is discovered and a possible drug ring is unearthed. The Super Troopers spring into action, attempting to solve the crime, save their jobs, and outdo the local police department. This came before Reno 911, and I think a lot of the inspiration for Reno 911 came from this movie, because you could definitely feel a lot of the inspiration from this movie in that show. And this is a movie that opened the door to Broken Lizard to a lot of people, myself included. And these guys are funny. I mean, Jay Chandrasekhar, Kevin Heffernan, Steve Leamy, Paul Sotier, Eric Stolhansk. I mean, these guys are really, really funny. They have a lot of funny moments in this movie. And this film is just absolutely hilarious. It's a stupid comedy, but it's this best kind of stupid comedy where a lot of the memorable moments in here are great. That scene I was just talking about, the scene where the guys are asked by the cops to pull over, just like, he's already pulled over, he can't pull over anymore. And like scenes like that really are what carry the movie overall to this other level. It's a really, really funny movie. Absolutely brilliant. A phenomenal cast in particular. That also includes Brian Cox and Marisa Kuglin. I mean, it's a hilarious movie, man. I don't think I need to say any more about this particular movie that hasn't already been said already, because this thing did go on to have a massive cult following. It even led to a sequel that came out in 2018, which is not quite as good as the original film, but it's still fun. I still found a lot of fun in that particular movie. But this, yeah, man, this is a really funny movie. This is one that still holds up. It's really funny, really stupid fun. It's fun, man. It's just classic comedy. The classic kind of screwball comedy that works for a movie like this. It just works for this time. It's a brilliant movie, man. It's a really, really funny movie. I love it. It never gets unfunny every time I see it. It's really brilliant stuff. I really love it. Super Troopers, what more do I gotta say?
Century, the vampire Lestat knows no fear. We are the powerful, except one. Akasha, the mother of all vampires.
Join me or die.
His pleasure in only one thing. Aaliyah, Stuart Townsend, destroying life. Anne Rice's Queen of the Damned.
Come out, wherever you are.
Rated R, starts February 22nd.
Well, I beg your pardon. I mean, it's Anne Rice's Queen of the Damned, because, of course, we gotta have that name in there, because apparently that's a draw for this movie, I guess. And, okay, whatever. But, this is, of course, based off of Anne Rice's The Vampire Chronicles, which has been made into... several of the stories have been made into movies, most notably Interview with a Vampire, which is technically a standalone sequel. And instead of Tom Cruise and Antonio Banderas, you have Stuart Townsend and Matthew Newton in the roles that they played in that movie. But most notably, this film also stars Aaliyah, and this was a big deal because Aaliyah made this movie before she passed away in August of 2001. She died in a plane crash, and they basically kind of used that to sell the movie here because this is the last film that she was in. And I guess in some ways it worked out because the film did a decent amount of money at the box office, but not enough to really make this a hit by any means necessary. If you don't know the story of this particular story from Anne Rice, it goes like this. So the vampire Lestrade basically has lost interest in immortality. He goes to sleep, awakening after a long time to the sounds of metal. Taking up as the leader of an undead band, Lestrade gains fame but exposes vampires, drawing the attention of vampire enthusiast Jessie. Jessie is played by Marguerite Moreau, who you may remember from the Mighty Ducks movies, and she was also recently in stuff like Wet Hot American Summer, and she was also in Parenthood as well. But she plays Jessie in this, and his music also awakens the Queen of the Damned, Akasha, played by Aaliyah, who's the first vampire, and decides to make Lestat her king. After learning of her bloodlust and desires to take over mankind, Lestat teams with the other vampire, no ability to take her down. Lestat then tries to turn Jessie into his undead mistress to spend eternity together. And from that plot, there is a lot going on in this particular movie that I think really hurts the film in the long run. But yeah, this is a movie that's really not all that good. At least Interview with a Vampire had some flaws to it, but at least it stuck with the basics of the original storyline and was at least seen as a fun movie in general. It's still a movie that still is very entertaining, and you had a good director behind it. With this one, this director's not really all that great. I mean, he did make one good thing in his bibliography, and that is the miniseries that eventually led to the Battlestar Galactica TV series. But other than that, though, yeah, this movie really is not worth it. Even if you want to see Aaliyah in her final performance overall, it's still not worth it in the long run. Yeah, it's got a nice little gothic look to it, but the film overall just really isn't that engaging or all that interesting. It feels like a movie that was made not by Warner Brothers, but by the WB, because the WB was known at that time for doing like a largely teen-oriented lineup of shows, melodramas and all that. It feels like the people who made those WB shows made this particular movie in general, and it hurts the film in the long run. It's a film that just really is really dull and really does not have a whole lot of energy to it whatsoever. And you can't really get behind the leads in this movie all that well because they're not really written all that well in general. And it does hurt the film in the long run. I mean, I think with a better director and a better script, maybe they could have had something here, but I don't know. It just didn't work for me. But luckily, these stories have turned out into a much better thing later on down the road with AMC having done the Interview with the Vampire series. And I think they've also done the Vampire Chronicles as one of the other spin-offs. I thought there was another one called A Discovery of Witches or something. A Discovery of Mayfair Witches is what it's called. I thought it was something called A Discovery of Witches, but no. But the shows on AMC have been pretty entertaining for the most part. I haven't seen all of the episodes, but a couple episodes I saw of those were pretty good. And I think they've done a better representation of what Anne Rice wanted to do with these in film, in like long form film or television. But other than that, though, yeah, Queen of the Damned is not really worth it. Even if you want to see it for Aaliyah's last performance, it's not worth it. I feel like she could have had a much better role, and had the script been a lot better. But yeah, it just didn't work for me personally. So that is Queen of the Damned. So let's go ahead and take a look at the other movie that we have here, which I do not know off the top of my head right now. Now I remember it. I was about to click onto the next page to figure out what it was, but it's Kevin Costner in Dragonfly.
This Friday, I felt like she was in the house.
Where's dead, Jack?
The signs are everywhere.
Something wrong.
I feel like I'm losing my mind.
Get hold of yourself.
Prepared for what's on the other side. Dragonfly, rated PG-13, at theaters Friday.
From the same man that gave us the heartwarming comedies of The Nutty Professor and Liar Liar, you would not think that this was made by the same director of those movies, but the last movie he directed was Patch Adams, and I guess Universal saw that and said, this guy can clearly do drama. Give him another one to work on, and well, this isn't really that great of a drama or a thriller or whatever the hell it's trying to be. You have a story here where Kevin Costner is a grieving doctor being contacted by his dead wife through his patient's near-death experiences. And, yeah, kind of like with Wind of the Dead, there's not really a whole lot there to make this worth watching. It's kind of a dull movie that doesn't really have any life to it. Kevin Costner can be a really good actor when he needs to be, but he can also be kind of bland in movies where he's not really given a chance to show what he can do as an actor. Like the things that made him the actor that he was with Bull Durham, and then stuff like Dances with Wolves and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. But in a movie like this, it's just him collecting a paycheck. There's nothing about this role that really makes it worth it in the end. The story isn't really that interesting. It is very melodramatic at times and very cliched riddled, and it has a lot of the same problems that Patch Adams does. Like, it's a movie where there's a good story in there, but the way it's represented and the way that this director's handling it, it just doesn't work out. And luckily, Tom Shadyac went back to doing comedy after this, because his next movie was Bruce Almighty, which turned out to be a much bigger success for him. And then, of course, he followed that up with Evan Almighty, which not quite as the big success it was, but certainly better than what this movie was. Yeah, I can't really get behind this movie in particular. It's a movie that just feels like there's too many things about it that really are just all over the place about it. The story is not that engaging. The visuals are not that impressive. The moments where you're supposed to feel emotional feel melodramatic and emotionally manipulative. Like, it's not a good movie whatsoever. And it just goes to show that this director can make good movies if you give him a good material to work with here. But Patch Adams, Dragonfly, yeah, just goes to show you that he can't really do drama all that well, unfortunately. But yeah, that's Dragonfly for you.